All right, well, it's 6 o'clock, so if you want to call
Yeah,
to order, we can go for it.
call to order. Bill, can we have a roll call?
Certainly, Trustee Bree.
Here.
Trustee Hallwax.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here. Excuse me, doesn't look like we have any public comments, but 7 years in, I don't know.
What'd you wish for?
Don't
Yeah,
care.
we just get the wrong.
It's not one.
It's just fun. You got time. You got a whole year. We'll round some folks up.
Yeah. Can I have or anything regarding the minutes from anyone? I don't think so. But, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? You can just do a voice vote.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Nikki, I think we've got a short meeting. There's other stuff.
We do.
Short meeting.
We had this trouble last time.
Is it not letting you advance?
I'm trying to share,
Oh,
not in presentation mode.
you don't want to be in presentation?
I want to be.
Yeah.
Page, let me.
There you go.
Okay, here we go.
Ta-da.
All right, there we go. Okay, you're correct. We have a short meeting tonight, so we'll start with the March Treasurer's Report, which is in the packet. Heading to the general fund, we're already 25% all through the year. So we're 3 months down. This is the good news slide. So we won't spend a lot of time on this, but all of it's good news. Our property tax collections are actually catching up. So this is all for the installment that was 55% of last year's receipt. So this is the easy bill to pay and to calculate in Cook County. All of our major revenue sources are continuing to perform strongly. Our permit revenue has rebounded. Last month it was a little bit less than what we would have anticipated. So we are starting to see that activity come back, and we're hoping that'll continue through the summer. Our places for eating tax is just a little bit less than 0.25% of what we have budgeted, but it's a little too early to be concerned about that because we still have the whole summer ahead of us.
Just a quick question on that one. So is the 19,000, are we comparing apples to apples? The 43 relative to
We have an extra restaurant this year that we didn't have last year, so I think that's probably playing into it fairly significantly. I'm trying to think of what
There's
else.
probably a month delay
Yeah.
Is
that
that
we
right?
could adjust for, because when we started collecting the tax last year, it was due a month later. So it started January 1st. So the first tax receipt comes in February.
Okay.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's actually a lot better than the
Wait,
year.
if-
So
This year is better than what you would expect, or?
Yeah.
Because it's substantially higher.
it's substantially
That's
higher.
because
Right.
the new restaurant.
Yeah.
Right, but we budgeted 200 and we're at 43, so
It's
we're
roughly.
assuming summer will be busy.
Oh, yeah, I'm just looking, I'm just
Yeah.
comparing. Because, last year was the first year we had no idea.
Mhm.
So,
And 19,000 is
Yeah.
much lower.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so that's a good question. It's not something to keep in mind.
I do know there were a couple of delays in those first remittances as well last year as the restaurants figured out their process for getting it in. And I think they played a little bit of catch up those first few months of last year, if I remember correctly as well.
Also not on the slide and not really in the report, we are in the middle of vehicle sticker season. So if you haven't gotten your stickers yet or your pet license, please.
Nikki's
do
got
so.
a credit card reader.
For
She'll-
everyone watching at home, they're all due on your vehicle by May 1st. As of March.
You can get this on the village website too, right? It's
You
pretty,
can.
it's pretty easy.
Yes, it is very easy.
I ordered mine on the village's website.
mine's on my car window.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
that's
good.
good.
Mine is not on my car.
Mine
window.
Yes.
I've had it for
And on
3
my
weeks.
pets, my question is, we use an outside vendor for that, right?
Correct.
Is there any way they can work a little more sustainably and send one envelope as opposed to, in my case, 6?
That's an
We
excellent
have
question.
asked that question, and it's an excellent question. And we were told that is their standard process, so that stickers don't get lost either when people are opening the envelope. that's been their experience, that they send individual
Okay,
ones. and
all right.
they're
So
lost.
they
But we
otherwise-
did ask that question because it
It's
was
kind of
a
a-
lot more
yeah.
Yeah.
sustainable, yes. Great.
I was the first one to ask that question when I got 3 envelopes and I sent Nikki a text message saying, what is wrong with this process? And we realized that there's some logic behind it. In a perfect world, and that may be something that we work to change over time, but
So our vehicle license revenue is tracking through March 31st at 38% of the revenue budget for the year, which is actually a little bit ahead of where we were last year. Last year, we were at 30%. So we have started to see a little bit of a decline at the end of April. So we will be trying to push that through social media just to remind everybody that it's time to renew. This is the not so good news slide. So we talked a little bit about this in the financial report. Craig's has been covering this a lot, the story. There's a lot of tension between the Property Tax Appeals Board and the assessor for PD on the property tax bills. And what we are hearing is that the property tax second installment will definitely be delayed. Phil and I have had some meetings on this and found out that December might be our best case scenario for a due date. That means that most of the property taxes that we would expect to see this fall will be delayed. Our best case scenario, what we're hoping for, is a due date prior to December 31st, so we can get all of those receipts this calendar year. If we don't, it's very likely that we'll have to dip into fund balance for this year, this fiscal year. If the due date falls in January, from an accounting perspective, that's close enough that we'll be able to accrue that revenue back into the year. So our financials won't look funny. But that's kind of a best case scenario, what we're hoping for. So these two scenarios on the PowerPoint, it's hard to see, but we would expect to see property taxes kind of trickle in over the summer. And this is mostly like appeals that once they're settled, they'll pay their bill. And then you start to see the real large payments in July and August, September, when the bills go out on a timely basis. What we're expecting is just kind of this desert here because they're in a deadlock. Depending on who you talk to, which side you listen to, there's different reasoning behind the delay. There was a new system that was supposed to be
What are they
rolled out.
about it?
it relates to computer systems that don't talk to one another. So they have parallel computer systems that both the assessor's office and the board of review utilize, and there's a bridge built between them. Apparently the bridge is out because one of the systems was upgraded without necessarily the cooperation of the other office also upgrading theirs or working to rebuild the bridge between the two. So we've talked through various alternatives that they are reviewing, and I think Nikki hit it on the head. You know, a best case scenario is that the bills come out in calendar year 22. We walked through with our contact at the county just some of the issues that they should be conscious of that impact all local governments in the county. Some will be impacted more than others because of the ability for them to tap into fund balance. But the second installment is also the time frame when bills get paid, i.e. debt, pension, transfers. So you know, those are issues that the county frankly wasn't really thinking much about. And so hopefully that's now in their thought process a bit. And, you know, someone may pull a rabbit out of a hat and get this moving sooner. We didn't get our receipts for the second installment till November last year because of the county providing the delay. Some of them came in earlier. It was like, yeah, because it was,
a little bit
that's
later.
right. It should have been like August 1st due date, and it was an October 1st due date. So it's not uncommon. This was very common a decade plus ago when Cook County property tax bills came out on a very whenever someone felt like it schedule, and it's been much more routinized in the last decade or so, where they actually come in February and July. Last year was a bit of an anomaly. So we're going to keep watching it. It isn't a panic mode yet. I think we're sitting fairly strongly with reserve fund balances in the various funds that we would, as Nikki said, tap into if we need to. But we're going to keep a close watch on it and work with you every month.
What is the fund balance now? I'm sure it's in there.
Okay, I should be able to rattle it off to you. Back to the report. So as of March, it's 13.3 million. A little bit higher now.
Yeah, because you just got to start.
Right.
just because we got the first installment.
Yeah, beginning of the year was 9 and change.
Roughly.
So we have enough to cover it. Practically speaking, as Phil was kind of alluding to, in December, in the months leading up to December, we'll have to have some conversations about where the county stands, because particularly December is our debt service month. That's when we pay interest plus principal on all of our outstanding debt. That we can more than cover from the general fund balance if we need to. It's just logistics of coming from the general fund. But the bigger issue is the pension contribution. We're working through some issues with the county right now of where they're directing property taxes and why the pension fund is not getting them. But if we go through this whole year and the property taxes don't make it to the pension fund, we won't make our required contribution. And that can lead to some footnotes on our financial statements and some explanations with rating agencies that we might not want to
What
have.
do you mean by money not making it from the property? So the first payment didn't either?
So
Or
what's happening is the first payment, I think, there's different lines that you can levy on. There's a general corporate levy, and there's pension levies. You can actually levy for IMRF if you want to. And we tell the county where that money should go. And for whatever reason this year, I think what's happening, and I haven't been able to confirm with them yet, is that they're directing some of the pension money to the general corporate levy instead of where it belongs. So we're trying to sort that out. The village makes monthly contributions to the pension fund regardless, so they're still getting funded. But at the end of the year, we just want to make sure that we get to the required contribution regardless. And if those property tax dollars don't make it there, then we may have to make the contribution from the village's general fund and then make that up on the back end.
The net scope of the taxes levied, or that we would anticipate, whether it was levied for A, B, C, D, or E, right, in gross, is that 4.8, $5 million, $7 million, 8 million, what's the number?
13.
Close to
with the debt
13?
service levy.
Because of the debt service? Okay.
So in general fund alone, it's just over 10 million, 10 and a half.
But you're telling me for the year. I'm
For the
saying,
whole
I'm
year.
sorry, I meant for the back
Second
half.
Oh, the back half.
The
about
second
5
installment.
million in the general fund is what we're expecting.
But there's also more
service.
because of the
Debt and pension.
debt and pension. So is that like closer to 7 then? Or?
Probably between 7.
Okay.
So definitely an impact. I mean, it's a good thing that we have strong reserves. There's certainly other communities in this area that are
Those are
not-
what they'll do a tax advantage bill or something.
will have to do something like that.
What's the rate on that? What do they have to pay? I remember we did it in PNC for the city and we made a fortune.
Mhm.
I mean, I remember that it's a lot of freight.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really horrible. It's
It
that
is,
that
yeah.
villages are gonna get stuck with this.
Yeah, it's
Remember,
really
once it was like
scary.
6%. It was a very,
That
unattractive.
surprised me.
It's really scary for the special districts who have, 90% of their revenues coming
Yeah.
from property tax. So fire protection districts,
Yeah.
Park
school
districts.
districts, park districts, library districts. Libraries particularly have no other revenue streams besides property taxes. So I have been talking to my counterparts at the 3 special districts in town giving them whatever information we've been getting from the county so that they can start to be talking. All of them have strong reserves in place, which is going to help, but that isn't true throughout Cook County. It's about $16 billion worth of revenue that may not be in there in the collected hand before the end of 2022.
So going back to our, us just, even if the number's around 7-ish, and even if they don't make best case, or even second best case, it sounds like what would happen is we pay our bills on time, we get all the contributions in, pay all our debt service on time, et cetera. But our end of year fund balance will be perhaps even below the minimum, the quote minimum that we people agreed upon, which is why I think that's a horrible minimum, for just this reason. But the bills get paid, and then we have to explain it to S&P come bond rate.
By which time we both will have.
Right, you'll fill the coffers back up.
Right. You know, 2023 is a year that we've talked about bond, or doing a bond issue. Two of them, Waterfront and General, because of it's the second half. Or yeah, 3 million of the 10. So that's something that we're gonna have to contemplate whether we want to do that. How the audit looks, because that's gonna be what S&P looks at very closely. Having sat through the last 3 or 4 of our bond issue calls, the ratings calls with S&P, there is no doubt they're looking at reserves fairly closely. You know, the interesting thing about property taxes is it's the safe revenue, except when it's not, except when it's not. You know, and this is a huge impact to Cook County as well. I mean, Cook County by itself is going to take, you know, a several $billion hit by not collecting property taxes in a timely fashion. So it all cascades down. So our hope is that somebody figures out what to do. They get their act together and they don't screw things up for a lot of the county and the local governments within the county. But we're going to keep close eye on it. When I saw the article come out, I thought it was a joke, because this had been so typical back in the late the first decade of the millennia, and we just haven't seen anything like this happen in a while. So we will keep an eye and keep you apprised.
Were we paying for certain capital projects out of the general fund this year?
We were.
Should we just, can we switch that just to the bond money, or is it not applicable?
Yeah.
What it was slated for, we might be able to.
Some of it's already encumbered.
But
It wouldn't be able.
Oh, I see what you mean.
we might be able to.
Because
And
we're
then
not gonna
reimburse,
spend all
and then
that
reimburse the
money.
general fund out of the bond fund. Yeah, the general fund's 1.8 million altogether this year. Some of which is being deferred because they're vehicles that we can't get. And equipment. But that's a worthwhile thing for us to look at. And we can come back next month and kind of talk through what that might look like. What we want to be very careful of is that whatever we're buying with bond money, it fits the categories within which those bonds were authorized, so that we don't run into, even for reimbursing
That's
ourselves,
right.
which is why we've got it. We'll go through it with more of a fine tooth comb.
Any other questions? Well, as soon as we hear more, we'll share that. On a less exciting note, the waterfront is in good shape. We're slightly less than our 25% of the year in terms of percentage of budget, but we're right on track with where we were last year. So we'll really start to see this kick up as summer comes and irrigation starts to resume. Other items of note, we're still seeing strong performance in sales taxes. This is still a good news. As it stands today, when we project out for the year, we're looking at receiving general fund revenue at about $257,000 over what we're budgeting for. That's if we get property taxes by December 31st. Water fund revenue, we're projecting $26,000 below budget. That was generally predicted that we would be digging into fund balance this year. The other big news on this slide is that the state of Illinois has approved a budget again on time, record time.
Months ahead of schedule.
Yes, that included several items that are supposed to not having a detrimental impact on us. That remains to be seen. But that does include a temporary freeze in the grocery tax for the remainder of this year, a temporary freeze in motor fuel tax, which we don't know what that will mean on a long-term basis. The governor has indicated that he's going to be making us whole somehow on that. No details on how that's going to work yet. There's also property tax refunds that will be available for qualified residents. Level for that. And then a small increase in our income tax sharing,
A very small increase.
which we're expecting might bring us another $20,000. But it went up, it did not go down. So
It is an interesting budget. A lot of, the state hasn't found itself in such a cash positive situation in a very long time. And they didn't really know what to do with themselves to some degree. A lot of these programs that were approved, as Nikki said, are anticipated to not be negatively impacting any local governments throughout the state. But again, the devil's in the details on that. We expect that that's not going to be something that the state reneges on. But there are a lot of changes this year. So we'll keep an eye. If I can, real quick, I'll let this group know. I've let President Rowan know. We received word yesterday from Senator Morrison's office that she has included among her capital projects across her district about a $700,000 allocation to us to help offset the cost of the crib wall and ramp improvement project that we are working on with the Park District. Along those same lines,
That's on the beach.
Yeah. So
What is that total gonna be?
well, I'll bring you to that point in 1 second. So we received some outreach from Representative Schneider's office about 3 months, I don't know, about 2 months ago, that they were going to have a grant program available, earmarks essentially, and that we should think about projects to submit. So when that was made available, we sat down with the Park District and issued a joint grant application through the Congressman's office for a $3 million total expenditure. That is a broader scope than what we have included in our budget this year. And our budget this year was really a replacement of one crib wall. What we've put forward is the replacement of that crib wall, another retaining wall, and the roadways that are associated with it, owing to the fact that there's quite a bit of movement happening on that bluff. We had a call today with the Congressman's staff talking through that application. Dave was on that call with me, as was Lisa Shepard and Kyle Cruz, who's their new parks maintenance superintendent, to talk through that project. It sounded positive from the Congressman's staffer's standpoint. They were impressed with the level of detail that we had included in the grant application and how much work has already been done. They want to see the dollars get spent as soon as possible, so they like that there's been a lot of work done. So we will know by the end of next week what, if any, allocation the congressman is able to put forward toward that project. Tying that in, I don't expect that they're going to say, here's $3 million. I expect it's going to be something less than that. But tying that in with the $700,000 from Senator Morrison's office and the $700,000 that the village and the park district have jointly budgeted in their respective budgets, we may be able to put together a pretty darn significant investment at not a whole lot of cost to us. So that's the goal. And to tie off to that concept overall from a grant standpoint, as you all will remember, at your request and direction, resources were made available in this budget to bring in some grant support, particularly in sourcing, writing, and anticipating possible grants where we have projects that would qualify. We have signed an agreement with Amy Ayner, who is a former Village of Glenview employee who retired a couple years ago and started her own firm, and this is one of the things she specializes in. We're going to be meeting with her in the next couple of weeks. She's gathering information from staff right now. Public Works just put together a really extensive list of potential projects, some of which we have on the books, some of which are more nice to have, things that have been in the hopper for a long time, to see what sort of grant opportunities we may be able to avail ourselves of. The clubhouse is a really good example of another project that we love to see some outside resources from other units of government. So we are working on that. I hope to be able to come back to you shortly to give you an update on just where things stand on the process. But we're hitting the ground running. So I was pleasantly surprised to get that call from Senator Morrison's office yesterday. That was unexpected. Interestingly, the appropriations document that they sent us today, which is almost 4,000 pages long, literally. John did a keyword search for Glencoe and found another $303,000 across two other program areas that's supposedly allocated toward us. I sent an email back to the senator's office and said, hey, what about these two things? And she said, I don't know. Let me look into that. One is $300,000 for stormwater improvements. Supposedly that goes back one fiscal year. I have no idea what that is related to, but if they want to give us $300,000 for stormwater improvements, we've got the stormwater improvements to do. The other is a really interesting one that goes back to the resurfacing work that they did on Sheridan Road, and it's like $4,000 for restoration of the stone walls on the bridges, the 3 Sheridan Road bridges that exist. We do need to see some investment in those bridges, so if those dollars are available, we may be grabbing them up as quickly as possible. But we're going to keep at it. Those dollars are the best dollars because for the most part, they're free. There's a process that goes along with it, but I think it's nice to see our projects getting noticed and out in front of our elected officials in Springfield and Washington.
The Schneider money is earmarked money, which did, hasn't just for a
Right.
while.
Yeah, they just
So
put those back in
They've
place.
given him a bag of cash, and in his office, they're gonna divide it up.
And sad thing is, it does seem like an effective old relic.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff got built. I mean, it doesn't have to be the bridge. It doesn't have to be the bridge to nowhere.
That's true. That's true.
Bill's report.
Yeah, I have one quick one
Oh,
on the
sure.
water. I saw those were extraordinary sales tax numbers that we hope. I mean, I guess with inflation, right, things cost more. there's more money in the system, but what's water usage? Like, I'm guessing we're seeing more water usage because we're attracting more water because the system, we were probably losing so much water from before. So some combination of we're seeing more water usage that may or may not be accurate, or maybe more accurate now than it was. Right? We're seeing more revenue because we're charging more.
So
Is it in line with what we expected?
it is, it's a little bit higher than what we were expecting, which is why we kind of backed off on our rate increase this
Right.
year.
Has there
But-
been any pushback or any nasty
No,
items?
no, not, I mean, there's always
Couple.
some,
We
there's
always
always
have a
some,
couple.
yeah.
But I think the technology has been nice because we can show the usage by the hour.
Yeah.
So what happens a lot is we can identify when that's spiking, and some of Dave's team members will actually go out to homes and help identify if a toilet's leaking, or we can say, you know, we used 1,000 gallons between 2 and 3 a.m. Was your irrigation system running? Well, yeah. And I think for the most part, what we're finding, our residents are very shocked by the amount of usage that's happening. I think we even had one resident that was upset because her daughter was taking like an hour-long shower, and was shocked at how much water that was using.
Every day.
So we have been able to identify, you know, some more responsible uses of our water through those conversations. We are still working on an end user portal that will be for residents. We've been working with a software company that's making adjustments for us since we bill on a quarterly basis. Once they're done with those, we can roll that out to residents and they'll be able to see their usage too. So that'll be nice.
I will also let you know along the lines of water and metering. We are working with the village of Northfield to share existing infrastructure that Glencoe installed for our meter reading technology. They are installing the same meters in Northfield and using the same company that we used. And what they were realizing was that they were going to need to erect a monopole to put a antenna tall enough into the air to read their whole community. As they were doing the propagation maps with Core and Main, they realized that Glencoe's 2 antennas, one that exists on top of the monopole structure here by Public Works and the other on our water tower, actually provide adequate coverage for their entire community. And so we've been working with Core and Main, our water team, and Northfield's water team, and we'll be bringing a intergovernmental agreement back to you guys next month with Northfield for them to essentially reimburse us for half of the cost of the infrastructure and half of the cost of the annual maintenance, at least for about a decade. So it's a really nice cost savings for them. It's a really nice cost savings for us.
Yeah, half's pretty good.
Yeah.
I would've
Yeah.
thought it less, but
Yeah, so we're excited about it. They're excited about it. So I think it's always nice when that can happen, but that's one of the benefits of this system is its capabilities. And so this is one that we didn't expect, but we're happy to be working through. So more to come next month.
Staffing update, we are happy to announce that we have a new instructor for our academy. It's been almost a full year trying to find someone. Kevin McCann comes to us from Sunset Ridge. He was an assistant there and took on full-time teaching over the winter at an indoor facility in Glenview. So he has started with us. He's going to be also our new instructor for summer camps. So we're very happy to have him on board. Not soon enough, the financials in March and year-to-date were $8,000 short of our budget in academy, and it's just reflective of not having somebody there to teach, so it's very good timing. March did make its revenue budget because we were able to open those 4 days of decent weather, and the rest of it would say pretty quickly. But we were happy to make our budget, and year-to-date revenue-wise, we're doing well. Friends of the Glencoe Golf Club, we did have a board meeting. Very excited that we have 3 new board members, which we've been actively recruiting for quite some time. All very different people, and will bring us a whole new avenue to new contacts. Pam Kinsey, who's our campaign director, has already been reaching out and meeting with everyone to see what list they can go through, and setting up individual meetings. We are definitely focused on the larger gifts right now and not going after any of the smaller gifts. And that's Pam's direction to get us to have $2 million by July, maybe 2.5 million by July is our goal. Some big meetings we have planned coming up, so we're looking forward to starting that process and welcoming our new board members as well. And we won't talk about April until next. We don't talk about April.
It's gonna be 80 on Saturday.
Okay. Final item on our agenda, we just have a few updates to our CIP program. Thursday night, the board will be considering 2 contracts. One has 2 parts to it. The residential concrete sidewalk and curb replacement will be for $190,000. And the stormwater improvements project for the actual construction, actual improvements will be for just over 1.5 million, and engineering will be 117,000. So those will all be on the agenda Thursday night. And then there were a couple changes to the quarterly schedule of our projects. The public safety kitchen renovation was moved from April to June. Traffic signal controller modifications were moved from April to May. And the cardio defib monitor was actually moved back from March to February. So nothing, no major changes there.
One thing to note, a bit of good news again, the stormwater project, we opened bids last week, came in under the engineer's estimate by about, what was it, about 50,000?
50,000.
Which was a pleasant surprise. We weren't really sure what to expect with commodities costs and labor costs going the direction that they have been. So that now is 2 out of 3 of our big projects for the year that have come back with really strong bid numbers. Water mains, we're opening that in May?
June.
In June. Okay, so that'll be the next test of the market. Water mains, what we're hearing from some of our other neighboring towns is that those are coming in a little higher than they'd like them to because of materials primarily. So we'll see, but hopefully they get that all out of their system, and by the time they bid on our projects, they're flush. So I can hope, right? Yeah. Are you choking to death? Don't do that. I think that's it that we have on this agenda for this evening, unless you guys have any questions or issues. And Nikki's gonna die over there pretty soon, so we don't want that to happen.
Here for Thursday.
That's right. That's right. Wow.
I have a tickle in my throat. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. Anything else?
Yeah, anything else that anyone wants to discuss? If not, I have a motion to adjourn. So,
Second.
all in favor?